it's we're live
check
on the thing. Yeah, so we're good on the microphones.
Check.
This is the Brown Duke Gun Show live today. What did it say? Wednesday, October 2nd. We're here at Sentry, and hopefully we are running live on all of our platforms. So we have Rumble going, Twitter looks like on the Brown Duke Gun Pod Twitter, hopefully Facebook and YouTube. So you guys can check those out. I'll check out YouTube real quick. Sorry for being late, folks.
No, just no camera.
Just no camera. Oh, okay. Hang on. Let's see. Let's disable the camera. Then let's re-enable the camera. It looks like it's going on over here. Hang on, folks. Sorry. Technical difficulties as always. All right.
Oh, no.
What happened?
Sam, we're working on it. Don't
freak out.
Don't freak out.
Don't freak out.
She's like, you amateurs.
It's so true.
Yeah, don't know.
We are totally amateurs. Let's see. And okay, let's re-enable that guy.
She's also probably going to fuss at us for being late.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are totally late. That's what happens. You let the Filipino run the live stream. So, are we audible at least?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you know what we could do? Instead of using the nice camera, we could go with this camera if it'll let us. Darn it. All right. We have two people watching on Facebook, one on Rumble. Thank you guys for that. Hang on. We are just trying to get this camera rolling. I don't know how exactly we do that. Let's.
Hey, Ryan, can you shut that door?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let me do this. Take that off real quick. And here, I'll pause. You guys tell them how last night went over audio.
So last night we had the National Night Out in Youngsville, which is usually held at Sugar Mill Pond. I think they've been doing it for the last 5 years, and we've been doing it every year since the beginning, I believe. Last year went really well, or last night, and all we did was bring a bunch of really cool guns that are out of our personal safes that usually people don't get to see. Maybe like some video game guns and like old war type guns. We had an M60 there. We had the Spear that's right above me that you'll see later on once they get the camera figured out. We had the Barrett 50, the 107S. We had a UMP and a MP5 there. So all the kids were super excited. They got to go and see the different submachine guns and like hold them and kind of take pictures with them and, send them to their parents or whoever they might want to send it to. But they had a really good time.
Well, how many people ended up coming out?
Over 500, I'm sure. It keeps growing year after year. I think the last 2 years, Broussard finally split off and did their own. But before that, it was Broussard and Youngsville, and it was just getting so big that it was kind of hard to get people in there, right? Like tents and stuff.
Got it.
But it's pretty cool. The kids get to go and see the different, we bring guns, right? Obviously, but other law enforcement agencies and stuff, they bring their Bearcat or different patrol units and the boats and things, so they get to go walk on it and see inside the Bearcat.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. They used to have a helicopter that went. This year they didn't, but sometimes they have a helicopter that lands, and then they get to go
during the thing.
During the thing, yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of a pain at sometimes because there's stuff flying everywhere, but it's a really cool thing to watch them, and all the kids are very excited. They have the fire trucks there, and they extend the ladders and stuff.
That's pretty sweet.
So they get to go and walk on the fire truck, and they have an ambulance there, so they can go and tour the ambulance. It's pretty cool.
Well, good.
Yep.
So, I guess we've already talked about this a number of times. Do you think that could lead into maybe a kids program down in the future, having some of these kids? Was there any interest for that from parents and stuff like that?
I'm sure there is. This was kind of it's for law enforcement agencies to kind of introduce it to kids to where it gets them not scared of cops, I guess, because a lot of times, people are like, oh, well, if you're bad, then we're going to call the cops. Right. So it gets them kind of scared of cops. Whereas this way it kind of lets them go and view it and like meet the cops and kind of get some type of interaction to where they're not afraid of them. But we always have a lot of input from parents that are coming in that ask us, hey, do y'all do a kids program or not? And we always wanted to do some type of summer camp for that. And I think that's eventually we will get there. Yeah. It's just we have to write a program and actually get on top of it to do it. But we always talked about having like a 4 or 5 day summer camp, and it starts in the morning. Kids come in, and like one day I always wanted them to learn firearm safety, obviously the first day. And then the second day, like maybe load their own ammo. So like learn how to load ammo, like what goes into the whole cartridge, the case, the powder, the primer, all that stuff.
Right.
And actually get them to hand load 1 round. And then the next day go over like shooting fundamentals and techniques and all that stuff. And then like the 4th day, get them to actually shoot their round that they loaded. Right. Like I think that'd be really cool.
That would be pretty sweet. Probably 9mm, don't you think?
Yeah, like 9mm would probably be the easiest way. Very low recalling, and they can, shoot it. But out of like a certain gun, like we can design a gun or, build a gun here that has very little recall and put in a rest and just let them shoot it downrange.
Sure.
So that way they can get the whole experience of it.
That makes sense.
Put the laser shot system on that we have in classroom, let them learn fundamentals and stuff on that instead of out in live fire. And then the last day, let them do live fire.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. So apologies, folks. We are still trying to wrestle with this, with this camera. Hopefully you guys can hear the microphones okay though. So today what we wanted to talk about, other than just current events and the event last night, which sounded like it was a pretty good success.
Yeah, it was.
We wanted to talk about the secrets to accuracy. And, being honest, this is something that comes up a lot with us as shooters, you guys as instructors here. And really, what are the secrets? Everybody's kind of looking for the cheat code when it comes to accuracy,
Yep.
And so, wanted to dig into a little bit here. What are your secrets to accuracy, or maybe more importantly, what are your go-to drills when it comes to accuracy, right? So given that we can't get the cameras working right now, and I'll continue working on that as you guys talk about your favorite drills. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I guess in the interim, maybe starting with you, Brandon, maybe we'll go to Austin and I'll tell mine. What are your secret drills or your secret tips when it comes to just pure accuracy?
Yeah, so a lot of people, right whenever they start shooting, that's what they're focused on, right? Like they want to make sure they have a really tight group, and they don't think about anything else, like not self-defense stuff or speed or any of that things, even though sometimes they need to break away from accuracy because they want to get too accurate with the gun.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the first thing to like say, hey, I'm really good at this pistol, right? Like or shooting this pistol. So the number one thing that I think people have issues with is trigger control. So like they can grip the pistol however you want to. Like sometimes we'll play games here at the range with different employees and things, and like they'll make me shoot it, a gun different way. Like I have to shoot it strong hand only or like upside down or something like that, right?
Okay.
Like, so and you can still hit the target, right? It's still bullseye accuracy. Like it's fine. You don't have to worry about grip. As you start increasing speed, grip's definitely going to come into play. But the number one thing I think people suffer with is trigger control. So whenever you're pressing the trigger back, you want to make sure that it's pressing it straight back and it's not angling it over. So with a rifle, it's not as noticeable because you have a very heavy rifle, let's say like 5 to 10 pounds or so. And the trigger pull might be like 2 to 3 pounds in a rifle. And it doesn't move very far, right? It's also connected to your shoulder, your cheek, 2 hands, so it's very stable.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of get away with it on a rifle.
Sure.
But whenever they switch over to a pistol and it's only like 1 pound and the trigger is 5 to 6 pounds now it's definitely going to come into play. And usually what right-handed shooters do is they shoot low left, left-handed shooters shoot low right, because whenever they squeeze the pistol, they squeeze it all the way around with their hands. And their trigger finger ends up moving the trigger over to their not dominant side.
Yeah.
So we always go back in the range and make sure that like we place our finger on top of their finger to show them like, hey, this is how you're supposed to press it straight back and like what it feels like. And they kind of understand that and get that. But the drill that I always do is putting a blank target and having like 1 inch circles on it all over the place.
Mhm.
And you just shoot one round at each circle. So you put it very close,
Mhm.
like 4 to 5 yards. 5 yards would be ideal, because if you could shoot a 1-inch circle at 5 yards is equal to like a fist-sized group at 25, or a human-sized silhouette at 100.
Sure.
So it's like expert level marksmanship, right? So if you shoot one round and it's over to the left, the next dot, try to focus on pressing the trigger straight back. If you do it and it's still the same response, then you try to press the trigger like to the right side, right?
Yeah.
And you keep doing that until it hits the paster.
Yeah.
Right? Until it hits the 1-inch circle. Once it hits the 1-inch circle, then it's like, okay, that's what straight back really feels like. So keep replicating that over and over again until it becomes like a second nature to you.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and so I do a lot of stuff with new shooters too. So like everything Brandon said, 100% applies to new shooters. Like one of the biggest thing with new shooters that we see, especially like first time shooters, is they'll get in the range. We could do the safety stuff in the classroom. We get, give them like a prop gun to make sure all their technique is good and everything. We get them in the range. First 4 or 5 shots are like dead on the bullseye. They're having a great time. They're freaking out. They're like, oh my God, I can do this thing, And then all of a sudden, here come the almost missing the paper from 4 yards low.
Right.
And so it's something we have to explain to them. And like, look, you're not getting worse. You're actually getting better, because you're starting to understand how the firearm works, and you're starting to anticipate the firearm going off. So we teach them about jumping the shot. So something that I see with a lot of new shooters is kind of breaking that jumping the shot, being scared of the gun going off. So like Brandon said, is we do a lot of drills where we'll have them grip the gun, put their finger on the trigger, but we'll pull the trigger, show them what the slack feels like, show them where the wall's at. Look, once we hit the wall, we're going to squeeze. We make the gun go off, and then they hit exactly what they were aiming at. And they're like, oh, I can do this again. So breaking new shooters of that kind of bad habit, and we even have that habit,
Sure.
Well, I'll say I have that habit for sure. If I don't shoot for a long period of time, I start to see myself getting a little jumpy on the gun. But we kind of train it into them until it feels super unnatural to jump the gun. So we'll do that drill, and then teaching them about how much your left hand actually matters whenever that we're shooting. So most of them don't understand. We try to, kind of beat it into their heads in the classroom, and when we're showing them how much left hand matters on a gun, but they don't really understand it until they start to see those low left misses like Brandon talked about.
Right.
So what we end up doing is we'll either put our left hand on the gun, but still that even usually doesn't resonate with them, like, oh, that's exactly what I'm doing, even though, we're almost breaking their fingers. We're squeezing their right hand so hard. You almost feel bad. But usually that doesn't resonate with them. So what I like to do is I'll tell them, I say, look, okay, go ahead and just hold the gun with your left hand. And so they'll take the gun, they point it out with their left hand, and they're only holding the gun with their left hand. And then I'll tell them, okay, I'm going to go ahead and shoot the gun real quick. So I go to like move my finger towards the gun. And what they end up doing is death gripping the gun with their left hand because they're scared I'm going to shoot it.
Sure.
I obviously don't shoot it, but it's like, look, that's how hard you should be holding the gun.
Absolutely.
So then that's a good drill that I like. Is like, it sounds like a scare tactic, but it kind of hopefully it eventually resonates with them. Like, oh, I should actually be able to hold the gun. I should be squeezing my left hand so hard that I could shoot the gun just left-handed, right?
Sure.
So, like I said, most of my experiences with newer shooters. So that's most of what I see is just kind of getting them in the breaking the habit of being scared when the gun goes off, jumping the shot, and then teaching them about how important our left hand is, or our non-dominant hand, I should say, for our weird lefties out there. So.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I like that one too. I've heard of that one. I've done that with actually some shooters who don't grip nearly hard enough with their support hand, is to actually strum off around going support hand only. And things really change when you start to do that.
Yep.
Right. So my drill is maybe even a little bit more rudimentary than the drills that you guys are doing. It starts in dry fire, and this is more of a dry fire type of drill, where you really don't need anything. You can do this in the safety of your home, provided that you do not have any ammo anywhere near you, the gun's clear and everything, and you're pointed in a safe direction. But one thing that we know, and we've seen in the firearms community all over the place, and I'm sure you guys have had to battle this as instructors, is that there's a lot of information out on the internet that's antiquated.
Yep.
Right. You may get the people who have the teacup grip, people who have the push pull mentality, or they give you a percentage that you need to do, 70%, 30%, or whatever percentages are great for that day. Who knows? But the one thing that I've figured out in my time in shooting is that those, I guess, old wives' tales or those rules of thumb work for a certain number of people, but they don't work for everybody, right? So what a shooter needs to figure out is what works for them. And so to me, in dry fire, you can really figure out what works for you with regard to how you hold the gun and how you press the trigger straight back. And so going to my drill, it's just a dry fire trigger pull, right? And so you get a grip and, with both hands, so firing hand, support hand, and the only rule of thumb that I'll give you is something you guys have heard me say a million times, and you guys have probably said it in some way too, is that the shooting hand kind of holds the gun and the support hand crushes the gun, right? Hold the gun, crush the gun. That's not mine. That's from Steger, and I don't know if he got that from somewhere else, but
I'm sure
anyway,
he did.
Yeah,
Everybody
gets it from somebody else, right? So point is, you just hold the gun, just like a normal grip with your shooting hand, so you can manipulate the trigger without any sort of tension, and you really, crush the hell out of it with your support hand. So you don't really, and for this drill, you don't really have to even be aimed at a target, right? Remember, again, clear gun, ammo's in another room, the whole best practices of dry fire. But what you want to do is you put your finger on the gun and you pull the trigger as fast as you can, right? Good grip, good strong support hand, and good grip with the firing hand, and observe what happens with either the sights, and if you don't have sights on the front, what happens to your muzzle, right? If you see it kick to one way or another or up and down, then you know that you're not pulling the trigger straight back. So then, it's a science experiment now. Okay, let's move our finger a little bit more one way or the other to figure out, where do I need to put my finger on that gun to be able to pull the trigger straight back and the gun muzzle does not move, right? It sounds very simple, but there's a lot of art to it, in that everybody is going to have to do something a little bit different, right? So for example, a guy like Eugene, who we know who Eugene is, but he's a huge guy, 6'8", huge hands.
Yeah, his hands are very
monstrously big hands, and he's not going to have the same trigger position on finger position on the trigger as someone like Caitlin, who, female shooter, smaller hands, if they grip the same gun and relatively the same way, their finger positions are going to be totally different just because of the base of where their hands are.
And I think, like, if you hear instructors like, oh, you need to use this part of your finger, like if they're not like saying like, hey, try this way, but if they have that in their instruction, they're like, this is, you have to do this, that's usually like an amateur instructor, right? Because it just depends on like how big the gun is and like how big your hands are. Like every gun might be a little bit different in the way that you hold it, right? Like the way that the web of your hand is. So sometimes I'll say like, hey, try to put more of your finger in the trigger or less of your finger, just on one specific person. But it's not like across the board, like everybody has to do it this way,
right? Yeah, and I've heard that some instructors give this advice where you only pull with the fingertip, or that's or the first notch of the it's like, well, yeah, but no, right? And I stole it. This is not my drill. This is a drill I stole from Rob Latham, who has been also teaching and shooting forever, and he's like you could think of the guy as like a super old school guy, but he, the difference in his teaching, and I think with a lot of folks who are really the higher level instructors, is that they're always reevaluating the air quotes rules to make sure that they're relevant and actually lead to results for the shooter, right? A lot of times you get people who who have maybe less experience, and they have they do it their way, and that was like their own personal Bible for how to shoot, and now they're applying that to everybody else, and it may not work for everybody else.
I call them like bandwagon instructors, right? Like they go to one instructor and they learn a bunch of stuff, which is usually like good stuff, but it doesn't apply all the time, right? So like they take that and they like create like this Bible of it, and they're like, whenever they go to teach someone, they're like, you have to do it this way, right? And there's no other way to do it. And anybody challenges that, they're like, oh, no, that's not the right way. Like they automatically just discredit it instead of being like, hey, let me revisit all these things. Because we're trying to evolve. Like eventually hopefully the stuff that we're talking about today is like irrelevant in 10 years.
Exactly.
Right? Hopefully we
Right.
figure out a better way to shoot guns that's even easier.
Right.
So that's what you're always trying to do. But people that stay stuck in that, they're never going to evolve and they're never going to become better shooters because they're just keep doing the same things over and over again.
Certainly. Yeah. People who still teach Weaver, people who still teach, even they call it isosceles. It's like, no, man, just stand.
Yeah. Just stand there.
Just stand in a way that's comfortable and, pull the trigger and let's see what happens. Okay. Now lean a little bit more forward. We don't have official names for it, but you're trying to get to an outcome. You're not necessarily trying to propose a, any one sort of lingo or terminology that is, that is defining of your brand as an instructor, right?
Like
so
the biggest one now that like I see is kind of like very high shoulders, very stiff shoulders, and like straight arms. Kind of like the, I guess, Vogel style grip or the Chris Costa grip, like that type of thing. And now that we know, like, hey, we're moving away from that because you can't transition as fast.
Correct.
Right? Like you might be able to control the gun on a static target, but you can't transition. You can't see your next target. So a lot of like the law enforcement agencies are still stuck in that way, and they're finally starting to get out of it.
Right.
But there's still some instructors that still teach that way and don't want to hear anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though it's been 5 or 10 years that we've moved away from that.
Yeah. Now, tension, tension is not your friend, right? You're not going to muscle the gun. There's no amount of muscling the gun that is going to eat the recoil, right? And I think that's what a lot of people try to do. They're trying to completely minimize muzzle flip. And it's like, well, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So even in a vise, even if you put the gun in a vise, it's not, the vise goes straight up.
Yeah. We have a ransom press.
Yeah.
Still does it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like BC 3607 says great advice. Finally found it. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I saw that you liked a bunch of our stuff. So thanks for watching
or listening
or both. Yeah. Thank goodness you found it. And if you didn't catch the joke earlier, sorry, we started late. This is what happens when you let the Filipino run the schedule for the live stream. So one quick thing before we keep going, the browser is actually telling me to reload. So maybe if I do a reload, it may start our cameras. It may also kill the stream. So I don't know what's going to happen. We're all kind of learning here, but give me just 1 second and do a reload here.
Seconds, like
And yeah,
just to
see what it is.
oh yeah, there you go. No, that didn't do anything. Oh, here, it just puts this white button there.
Oh, there it is.
So yeah, there's something odd going on with there's something odd going on with the switcher, I think. I don't know, but yeah, apologies, we can't get the camera going. But so that's really, going back to what we're talking about, that's really kind of our tips for accuracy. We say it's secret, but it's not so much secret as this is the kind of stuff that people don't focus on. There are a lot of other accuracy drills, and I'm using air quotes since you guys can't see what I'm doing. There are a lot of accuracy drills that are more sexy, I guess, than what we just talked about.
Yeah.
But for us, this is really the fundamental stuff. This is like 101, where you start.
Yeah.
And
one of the things, like kind of like what you're doing is like you're pressing the trigger and learning how to do that. Trying to isolate your trigger finger compared to the rest of your hand. So whenever you are dry firing, try to focus on just moving your trigger finger, not squeezing the trigger with your whole hand. Like the bottom 3 fingers should not be applying pressure differently to the grip whenever you go to apply pressure to the trigger.
True. Yes, 100%. And actually, what you'll find is that if you try to get on the trigger a little bit more, a little bit harder, right? You're trying to split a little bit harder than you're used to. You will grip with the whole hand.
Yeah.
Right. And that is very common, and so much so that you'll see that come up in trigger freeze, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people wonder why you have trigger freeze. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll actually shoot slower because of that. So,
and then another mistake people do find is this is a very common thing that they've been doing for years, is kind of like putting your like dummy rounds in live fire. Have you ever heard that before? So they'll do like some live fire rounds, and then they'll throw a dummy round halfway in there, and they try to like catch a shooter, like, hey, like, see, like you just flinched. And it's like, everyone's gonna do that. Like I push the gun down also whenever I get to a dummy round. But the thing that you want to try to watch is like, are you pushing the gun down before or after the hammer goes forward.
Correct.
Right. So
Yeah.
like it's okay to push the gun down after the hammer falls. Right.
Actually,
then
you
it's
want to
fine.
do that.
You
To
wanna
do
do
it
that.
fast.
Yeah.
That's called returning the gun. right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like you're resetting the gun quicker. So it does happen. It's not a bad thing. Like I had an instructor, I was talking to him about that because I saw him doing it in a class in here. And he's a friend. Like I usually don't walk up to other instructors like, hey, you're doing this wrong. Right. Like, so after the class, he's a friend. And I'm like, have you ever thought about it this way? And he's like, oh, that makes really good sense. You know, like I said, yeah, everybody does push the gun.
We have
down.
camera on my laptop. Hang on.
Oh, cool.
So we're gonna do it this way. I'm just gonna hold it. Yeah. All right.
I'm gonna get tired.
Is it coming through though? On
No.
No.
it's not.
It's
still
whatever
not-
you're seeing on the top there.
Oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Okay. Weird. So I wonder if. Okay, I'll keep messing with it.
So yeah, you definitely like want to reset the gun, but you don't want to like.
You got it over there.
You don't want to like push down before the hammer falls,
Right.
because then you'd be anticipating the shot. So I don't think that's a very good drill, like because a lot of people do and pointed with it and they get discouraged with it. But if you're an instructor and you see that, just try to pay very, very close attention of when they push back on the gun.
Sure.
Yep,
Yeah.
if you're doing that drill.
Yeah. Because a lot of it, return is super important. And actually, if you're returning the gun before you fire the shot, it's a timing issue more than an accuracy issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I agree. I think that it's, we're like, you have to separate that out because that's not, especially if you're hitting the middle, if you're hitting the middle and then you're pushing the gun, then you're pushing the gun before the shot is just it's just your timing's off.
Yeah.
Right. So mostly now, sometimes people the way I could always tell, and I'm not an instructor like you guys are, but the way I could always tell if somebody was anticipating, right, is that their eyes were also closed.
Yeah.
So if they close their eyes and the gun dips forward and then they pull the trigger, then it's like, okay, no, that is a different problem than timing the return of the gun. That's really I'm not used to recoil yet. I don't know what happens when, what to do when this gun goes bang.
Yeah.
Right? So, very good. Well, folks, what else do you guys want to talk about today?
Other drills like for accuracy for speed, like so the next step, like after you can shoot bullseye, my favorite one would be like 666 drill, because that one you're shooting like a bill drill, so it's 6 rounds from the holster. So shoot 6 rounds into the target at 3 different distances.
Yeah.
So it has to deal a lot with what your eyes are seeing and how fast you can shoot at different distances, like knowing what your speed limit is, I guess, at that distance. And then you add up all those times, whatever points you drop, you add up those also. And then it gives you a total time. And then there's like par times for that, right? So it's Max Michel's drill. And the drill is at 5, 10, and 15 yards. You shoot a regular USPSA target. The A zone, you get -0 seconds off of that. So that's where ideally you want to go. If you drop a Charlie, it's 0.2 seconds added to your time. You drop a Delta, it's a half a second. And a Mike is 3 seconds. And you add up all 3 of your distances. The GM part time is 7 seconds.
Did it come over?
We got it.
Is it working?
We have camera.
Give it a second.
So okay.
So the GM part time is 7 seconds. And we got it.
Video.
Cool.
Hey guys. Hey.
First try.
It only took 30 minutes
30
to figure this out.
So that's perfect. So now we can show the target.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So for the 666 drill, you have like this target. So if you shoot an alpha, which is right in the center of the target, it's 0 points down. Shoot a Charlie is 0.2 seconds. A Delta is a half a second, and a Mike is 3 seconds. So add up all those seconds off of each one. So it'd be a total of 18 rounds. And you get a part-time. Like I said, GM is 7 seconds, and we usually say like if you're police officer or tactical training or anything like that, like that part-time would be like 10 seconds.
Got it.
Like if you can get under 10 seconds, that's really good. So the average shooter or person that comes into the range, that's what you'd be shooting for. Drawn from the holster, 6 rounds on target 3 different times under 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you're competitive, then try to get 7.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that also drives consistency, right? And
Yep.
just be able to repeat it over and over and over again. So that's super important too.
Yep.
So,
And it does with like 5 yards, it'd probably be under 2 seconds, right? But then at 15 yards, you're probably gonna be over 2 seconds because you're having to slow down and make sure you're getting all your hits in the A zone.
yeah.
My wife would like to inform you guys that we have way too many guns for the gun wall to look like it does.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, we run out of time.
we were late. And,
again, that is my fault. I'm sorry. We should.
and then somebody had the locks to our guns,
Oh,
Yeah, that's right.
which
we
was
do.
her.
I don't know anything about
She had
that.
the locks
She
to
has
our
locked
guns.
to the 50 and
Yeah.
to one of the
Wait,
machine
next
guns.
time it'll be better. But
There you go. Yes.
we have
We'll
a
try to do
cool gun.
Wednesdays. Maybe we can try to do Wednesday live stream lunch.
sure,
And make
yeah.
sure. We have an EMG gun. We have a spear. We have
Oh,
another
yeah.
spear.
There's an
This
infinity
way.
gun here somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a bolt, custom
what it
bolt
is.
gun.
Yeah. So,
But
Brandon Strayer, I will have your gun displayed here soon. Eddie, look at that. We got you.
Yep.
We got you covered.
But yeah, so I think was that anything else you want to put on that?
Nope.
Your drill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your-
I really like that drill because you can it deals with accuracy at speed, right?
So one thing I try to emphasize, like especially to new shooters and even like experienced shooters that we see a lot in the range, is going into what Brandon talked about that drill just now. Is I'm a super quantitative person. Like it's not if you can't put numbers behind it, like I have a very hard time either following or making sense of it. So like what we see is we'll see some of the USPSA guys or even just like some of our shooters that come, some of our members, they'll come up to us, either Brandon or I, and they'll say like, look, I feel like I'm not getting any better, at shooting. And, I come twice a week. It's okay. Well, what are you doing? It's okay. Well, I'll grab a target and I punch out a bullseye. And then sometimes, I'll try to like double tap the bullseye and I'm hitting it such and such. But it's like, but you don't have any quantitative data behind what you're doing, right?
Mhm.
There's nothing that's showing you that you're getting better, right?
Yeah.
So, it would be like, I do this every time, but it would be like going out and playing golf and being like, "Would you shoot?" and being like, "I have no idea."
Mhm.
Like not keeping track. Like there's a reason we keep track is because one, it's quantitative, so it's a competition, and then also because you can track how much better you're getting. So with drills like what Brandon just described, I try to get all of my new shooters, and after like the second or third lesson, once we can hit a bullseye, we're not jumping shots. We're comfortable with the gun, we can load it, and they can go in there on their own. And then even some of my more experienced shooters is start doing quantitative drills. I love that drill that Brandon just talked about, because it kind of almost puts you in a class like you talked about, where you can say like, oh, I can go in there on any given day and shoot this, part-time that coincides with an A or masterclass USPSA shooter.
Sure.
And when we showed that drill to our friend like Brady, like he was in here like every other day doing it. Like he was so committed to shooting a GM class 666 drill.
Yeah.
So drills like that, and even if it's not something like that, like I tell them all, like after like a third class, it's like, look, get a timer and find a drill that you like. If it's not specifically a 666 drill, there's a lot of different drills that you can quantitatively measure, but you have to be able to put some numbers behind what you're doing. And a lot of times what we'll see after that is they'll come in with like a little notebook or something, or they keep it in the notes of their phone.
Sure.
And they enjoy shooting more. They don't feel like they're just coming in here and aimlessly spending money on bullets that are just going down range. And then they're getting better.
Right.
So it makes the experience better for everybody. And they also start to bring in their friends and being like, hey, look what I can do. You should try it, because they want to see where they compete against their friends. Right. So huge suggestion to my new shooters is after you get comfortable accurately shooting, once you get comfortable with your firearm, start quantitatively putting numbers behind what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be to go out to buy this, an expensive timer or anything. You can do drills on your phone and just get a rough number of where you're at, especially with the 666 drill, which really comes down to hitting what you're aiming at.
Right.
Most of what you're going to lose or add time on rather is your misses.
Right.
So that's definitely a huge thing I try to push on people is gather the quantitative data, because without it, you're never going to see improvement, and it's going to feel like aimless practice.
Sure.
Yeah. And like on that drill, if you're shooting a Delta, you're not shooting a GM part-time. There's
one
no way,
Delta's
one Delta's
you're done.
not good enough.
Yeah.
2 Charlies is like the limit. Like if you can get 2 Charlies, that's the most amount you should get. But anything else is very difficult to get under 7 seconds.
And for the non-USPSA shooters, it's hard to see here on the perforations, but Alpha is this rectangle in the middle. Charlie is right around that, and then Delta is the edges, right?
We'll get a Sharpie on one of them.
Yeah.
There's another one. So this target is one that we have at the range. This is Max's new target. So it actually has your Alpha, Charlie, and Delta on it, like they're outlined. And then you put this at one distance, so it's like at 4 yards, and you shoot this one, and this one. So it's equal to like a 4-yard target, a 10-yard target, and a 15-yard target, right? And you add up everything. And at the bottom of it, they actually have the drill on it. Yeah, 666, and then 20 alphas across. So it's pretty cool.
And they have the thing up here where you can keep your score. It's kind of hard to see, but
good job, Max.
Yeah, this is an awesome target.
Nice one.
So I also like this target. So I helped them a couple of years ago with this one, like trying to get different target sizes on the same target for shooting like accelerator. Like this would be the exact same thing as accelerator, or like the Blake drill, right?
Sure.
So you can keep it at one distance, and you have ideally 3 different targets on 3 different bays, but you're only staying on one bay.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
It makes it easy, and you can do a lot of stuff indoor ranges. Like you don't have to have a whole bay to yourself with like multiple different target stands and all that. You can have one target stand with a target like that and do tons of different drills. You just got to be a little bit creative.
Yeah, very good. So I guess off of that, the one drill I would give everybody if you want to get more into the practical side of it, and not just single shots, but shots underneath a time, is the Frank Garcia dot drill. So and that's one that shooters, novice to grandmaster, world champion level shooters hate. It's difficult. It presents like the dot torture drill, but it's not that, right? It is its own thing. And actually, if you wouldn't mind holding that up real quick, you can look up Frank Garcia's drill online, and you can get a target for it. You can print them out, right?
A regular piece of paper.
Yeah, essentially, it's a regular piece of paper, but you have dots. Actually, they're 2-inch dots, and so they're a little bit smaller than this dot.
That's like a 4-inch dot.
Yeah, this is like a 4-inch dot, so it's half of this size, and there are 6 of them. I think we're gonna. There are 6 dots, and what you do is you need some equipment, right? And I would say the competitive shooter probably needs more equipment than maybe even just the beginning shooter or the person who's not really worried about competition, right? I'll start from the competition shooter first, and then we'll go backwards, and then just kind of remove some of the gear that you need for this if you're not a competitive shooter, right? So competitive shooter, you essentially just need your holster. You need gun holster and a timer, right? A timer that's able to set a par time, and you set a 5-second par time, and you push this target out to 7 yards. If you have a dot,
can you explain part time for our non-competitive shooters?
Sure. A part time is just a setting on the timer that will give you a beep at the beginning of the time, and it will give you a beep at the end of the time. So, for example, if you set a 3-second part time or a 5-second part time in this example, it would beep at the beginning of the 5 seconds and it would beep at the end of the 5 seconds, right? And so the idea is that whatever drill you're trying to do, you need to complete between the beeps. Right. So in this example, the Frank Garcia drill, it is 5-second part time. There are 6 shots that go into each dot. Right. So you pick one dot, whichever one, doesn't matter. The order doesn't matter. Right. So you draw and you engage the target with 6 rounds in 5 seconds. OK. Distance is 7 yards. I would say if you're shooting optics, you might want to push that out to 10 yards. OK.
It's still difficult at 7.
It's difficult enough at 7.
Yeah, if you're a new shooter, I'd say put it 4.
5. Yeah, 5 yards, 4 or 5 yards.
4 or 5 yards for sure, if you can get it in there.
So, so this is, going back to quantitative drills, this is a pass-fail drill. So you are trying to, this tests your accuracy and your consistency, because you're trying to hit 6 out of 6 dots 6 out of 6 times, right? So 36 shots. If one flies, then it doesn't count, right? So now what counts? So if you hit the edge of the circle, counts.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's completely outside of the circle, doesn't count, right? If it hits a different circle, doesn't count, right? So, but that's the Frank Garcia dot drill. And again, it is really, it's a tennis racket to the face, right?
Yeah.
It's
that was the
no
first
good.
drill
Yeah.
that like you showed me that I was like, okay, this is an actual like very difficult drill.
Yeah.
Like because every other drill they have part times, they usually like set up really, really easy. Like if you do like the FBI qualification or like the Louisiana Post course or something, like if you're shooting for like, hey, their par is this, like this is a pass or fail, it's easy. Like you can almost do it blindfolded.
Right.
But this drill is the first one that I was like, oh, okay, like this is an actual like GM drill.
Yeah.
Right. Like and it was before even really started shooting competitively that I shot that drill, and it took me like 6 months to like pass it.
Right. Yeah. Same.
It was difficult.
And it's one of those things that even like once you pass it, it doesn't guarantee you'll pass it the second time you do.
Right.
Like if you do it twice back to back, it's
Like,
it's
I
very
think that-
difficult.
Like if you're GM, then you probably pass it every time.
Most
right?
times.
Yeah.
Most
But
times.
like
Yeah.
other than that, you're probably not gonna say 100%.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
even.
Well, I don't
70.
even. Well, but so what happens? What I've noticed, it's like at least with the kind of like the GMs that we train with, right?
Yeah.
Is that the part time essentially becomes not a non-issue,
Yeah,
right?
it's
In the
not.
very beginning, it's an issue. It's difficult to get all 6 shots aimed and into the circle in 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
After like for the highest level folks, it is not an issue, and the opposite becomes true, right? The opposite becomes the enemy because they try to go faster.
Yeah.
And
you got to really slow down.
and in going faster, then like that's when the shot starts to go outside.
Mhm.
So I won't out who I'm thinking of.
I know what you're thinking of.
But yeah. But the fact remains, like world champion level shooters, will get on the gun too hard and get out of bounds on it. So
Yeah. 'Cause
very
it's more
difficult drill.
It's very like accuracy based drill.
Yeah.
Like it's a very small target at decently good distance. 7 yards is not bad, but
Yeah.
like a 2-inch circle at that distance is pretty hard.
I mean, that's probably for competitive shooters, that's probably an activation zone of a large popper at 25.
yeah.
Something like that.
Like I said, expert level marksmanship would be like 1 inch at 5. So
Right.
2 inches at 7 is like pretty close.
That's tight.
Yep.
So
You got to do it on the clock over and over again.
but yeah. And I would, now that I've given that drill, I wouldn't train specific, like only that drill, like train other stuff, especially if you're in competition. That's not the only thing to competition shooting, right? There's so much other stuff going on, but it is a good gauge of like where your accuracy is and if it's good enough to shoot a match, right?
Yeah, like every so many months or so, you can shoot that drill and say like, hey, last time I only got like 2 of the circles. I got all 6 of them in. Now I have 3 or 4.
Right.
It's like, hey,
Exactly.
I'm gaining something there.
Yeah.
And same thing with 666. Like whenever they first start, it's like, man, I don't think you're gonna get GM part time or like even under 10 seconds.
Right.
Like you might get like 15 seconds, and then you keep shooting, you keep practicing, doing different things, doing dry fire for draws and stuff.
Mhm.
Start getting quicker. So then next time you shoot it, you might say like, hey, I'm at 12. Like
Yeah.
I gained something, right?
Right.
Whenever, like Austin was saying earlier, they have been shooting for a couple months and they're like, well, I haven't gained anything, right? It's
Mhm.
like, no, you've gained 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is a way to prove that
That's
you've
huge.
done that.
Yeah. That's a very difficult thing to do, right?
Yep.
So or you get that, like reducing the time or getting better hits. Either one, it's all progress, right? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. I'm gonna start incorporating that with some more like newer to going to
Intermediate.
advanced, intermediate.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of the dang term. With our number 8 target, I don't have one, but essentially all it is
Same.
there's a I think it's 8.6 2-inch dots on one target.
Yep.
So like keep a part time like maybe we'll call it like 7 seconds for an intermediate shooter,
Mhm.
and
Sure.
be like, look, when you go in there, start with an 8-inch circle at 7 yards or 5 yards. Start with an 8-inch circle with a 7-second part time, and then do that drill. And then if you can do it 3 times in a row without throwing a shot, then you've passed the 8-inch circle. Now move to the 6-inch circle.
right.
That would be
That'd be a good one.
I'm gonna
And
start incorporating that.
The inside circle, the white one, is 1.5 inches.
okay.
So you know how it has a number?
Oh, in the number, yeah,
it's like white and then it's gray.
yeah.
So
They're
the
all
white
1.5.
is all 1.5.
Okay.
So it's like that's pretty much the drill. If you put that 1.5 inch at 5 yards, that's pretty much the drill.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm gonna start incorporating that with some intermediate shooters.
Yeah. So I think, the one thing I did promise is, okay, if you're not a competition shooter, what's the difference? You still need a timer, but you don't draw from holster.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think that's probably the thing. And part of, what I would say is that if you're a really good shooter, that you're really trying to get this drill, start from a low ready and cut a second off the par time, right? Because about a second or 1.2, 1.3 seconds of this drill for a competitive shooter is the draw,
And also for like concealed carry permit guys that just train that. So all these part times are like with competition holsters, outside the waistband, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna practice that,
add a second.
add it like at least a half a second.
Yeah,
At
I'd
least
say a
minimum.
full second is.
Yeah, a full second.
Because you've got a clear cover and
going.
yeah.
So like usually our part times for drawing is 1 second, and then for concealed carry, I would say like part time would be a second and a half at least from appendix. If you're going like to 3 or 4 o'clock, I'd say 2 seconds would be good.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
like I know that there's some concealed carry permit holders like I can draw in under a second with a concealed carry gun, but it's also not like as consistent and as small the target, right? So it's like most people that do that and throw those videos online, they're shooting at a full size USPSA steel target like 7 yards. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like just like point shooting the gun. Like they're shooting the gun like here before they even see a sight picture.
Right.
So it's like that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to make sure that we see a flash of red on the A zone, not just the whole target, just the A zone.
Right.
And then pressing the shot.
Vet your influencers.
Yeah.
That's our motto.
Yep.
Vet your influencers.
Yeah, for sure. So awesome. Well, very good. So I think that's it. Sorry about the camera stuff. We finally got it working though. That's good. We got this figured out. So I think we'll try to do. You guys want to do next week?
Yeah.
Now I'm putting you guys on the spot in front of the whole internet and all 5 people who are watching. Thank you all. Those on Facebook. We have actually now some from Facebook, some from YouTube, and some from Rumble. So we've got a good audience for our first one. Hopefully we'll continue to grow that. If you guys have any questions for us, please comment wherever you find our content. We're happy to do other shows, topics that you guys find interesting. So I guess, is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we go?
Come practice.
Yep.
If you're local, come practice. Come show us your quantitative data.
There you go. Awesome. Thanks, guys.